Hi, Genjan.
Hi, Caroline. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our session today.
Good afternoon, Betty. We're waiting on one of our presenters, Jean. It's great. And I think we'll give it a couple minutes as well to see if there's anybody else joining live. I know some of the sessions are starting at different times, which is challenging for navigating. Hi, Jean. So, Jean and Gunjan, looks like we do have to press admit to admit people to our session. So when we're
Mhm.
not speaking, we'll just keep an eye on that to make sure we're admitting people.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna just put myself on mute for a minute to make sure I prep our slideshow to share. So if you don't mind just welcoming and watching for folks, Jean and
Sure.
Thanks, Carolyn. I think we have a couple of participants already joined. Hello, Betty and Nicole. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. We'll give people just a chance to make their way here from the past presentation.
oh, so just getting that ready for, I think you're seeing the screen okay, right?
I can see
Yep.
it
Okay,
good, but I
super.
can't read everything at the bottom of it. It's zoomed bigger. I can't read everything at the bottom. Thank you.
That's better.
That's better. Thank you so much.
Maybe when something about when I click on my Zoom control bar. So when I'll camera myself off in a second and switch back to the full showing.
Good. Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
All right. Well, shall we get the ball rolling? It is
That
12:30.
sounds good. Yep, they've
One,
asked us to start on time, and I think
Okay.
we're also streaming live to the lobby, so we'll see. Others can join in if they wish, and welcome to those of you here. Over to you, Genjan.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Betty, and thank you, Nicole, for joining us today. Let's have the next slide, please. Thank you. I will start our time together with a land acknowledgement and would love to hear and share some reflections of my journey as a caregiver, as a parent on this beautiful Mother Earth that's Toronto for me right now. Holland Bellevue acknowledges the land we live, work, and learn on as the land that belongs to the Indigenous peoples of Canada. As facilitators today, we are very committed and dedicated to work towards reconciliatory future for every human in the space. We are located on the territory of Huron Bandit First Nation. The Seneca is part of Haudenosaunee Confederacy. The Mississaugas of the Credit River and the Mississauga of Scugog Island First Nation. We acknowledge that participants are joining from across Ontario today. We recognize that those of us who are settlers have roles and responsibilities to play and to be engaged in order to bring about a reconciliatory future. Let us reflect on this today as we talk about social inclusion in our communities in many, many spaces. Chi Migwish, Mercy, thank you. Can I have the next slide, please? Wonderful. So I will now start with our brief introduction. My name is Gunjan Seth. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a mother of an amazing, lovely human with autism and ADHD and a family leader at Honolulu View. I've been joined here by Jean Hammond and Caroline McDougall. I'd like to invite them and introduce themselves here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jean Hammond. I'm also the parent of a client at Holland Bloorview. I have a 19-year-old daughter who's been receiving supports and services there since she was 2 years old. I am a family leader volunteer myself, and I also work at Holland Bloorview helping to run our family leadership program, which is engaging with clients and their families to partner with the staff to ensure that everything we do at Holland Bloorview includes the client and family voice and perspective. Thank you.
And hi, my name is Carolyn McDougall. I'm the manager of a program we call Employment Pathways at Holland Bloorview. But in the context of today's presentation, I'm here to help introduce some resources that we have created around inclusion and schools. And in my work, I do a lot of collaboration with educators, schools, and families, and was involved a couple years ago in the creation of some e-learning modules for educators, which is called Project Inclusion. We'll speak about that more as part of our resources. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Jean, for a lovely introduction. And let's talk about the agenda for our time together. We have given a small introduction about ourselves, and we will talk about some inclusion, social inclusion. What is social inclusion is all about? Why we need to do social inclusion? What are the benefits of social inclusion? When and where to do social inclusion, and how to do social inclusion. So there are many curiosities around about this deep, interesting, meaningful topic, that's social inclusion. And in the end, we'll be sharing some resources. Can I have the next slide, please? Wonderful. Over to you, Jean.
Thanks, Kanchan. So I think before we start our presentation, we just want to make sure that we're all operating from the same understanding about what is inclusion. What does the term inclusion mean? So in the context of having a child with a disability, and that could be any type of disability, inclusion means taking action to welcome and involve people with disabilities in everyday activities and ensuring ways that they have that they are able to participate. Inclusion is also when we foster an environment where we value and celebrate the differences of everyone in the room. And integration does not actually mean that a student in the school setting will be meaningfully included or that their needs are being met. True inclusion means that we take a personal approach, a person by person, student by student approach to ensure that they are able to participate and that their differences are valued and celebrated in this space. Next slide, Carolyn. Thank you. So why? What are the benefits of inclusion? Well, for starters, it is a developmental need for all people to feel and be included, and it is also a human right. It increases confidence of individuals to feel included. It increases opportunities for friendships and connection to social support. It increases our overall engagement and our efforts in school and other academic pursuits, and it improves our overall health and well-being. Research shows that social inclusion is an important part of the school experience for students with disabilities. It leads to all of these great things that I've just run through: friendships, social support, improved academic performance, and better health and well-being. And if you're interested in learning more about what research tells us about the benefits of inclusion, we are sharing resources at the end of this slide presentation. And the next slide. And so when we're thinking about inclusion in schools, our mind might go to the classroom. And yes, very important for inclusion to take place in the classroom environment, where our students are there to learn and to be with their teachers and their friends. But there are other places where social inclusion is extremely important in the school setting. Thinking about recess, thinking about lunchtime, in the gym, the extracurricular activities that the school offers. It is very important that social inclusion is present in all of these non-academic spaces, but that are also so important in the day-to-day life at school. Gunjan, back to you.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you. So thank you for sharing about what is social inclusion, when, how, when to do social inclusion. Let's talk about the 3 conditions for social inclusion. So by the time we have learned about social inclusion, and now we are going to discover the 3 conditions. The 3 conditions for social inclusion includes: first, proximity to others and appreciation of common interest. Second, an involvement and engagement from each member in the space to be engaged in developmentally and socially appropriate activities. The third, that's very, very important, the condition for social inclusion is feeling valued, respected, connected, and having reciprocal interaction with each member in the space. And this could look like exchanging conversation, back and forth conversation, turn taking, building something together, co-creating something together. So these are some examples of reciprocal interactions. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm going to share an example of my son who is 16 and a half years old and has autism and ADHD. And it's an example of social inclusion. When my son was in elementary school, he was given the opportunity to be a milk mover, a lunchtime helper who distributed milk cartons to his classmates in the school, paired with a buddy. It might have seemed like a very small task for many of us, for some of us, but for my son, it was a huge movement of inclusion. One of many experiences that made him feel valued and part of the school system. From the start of this education he received at the elementary school in the neighborhood, I worked very closely with his teachers and the school staff, expressing my desire for him to be included in many social activities, just like his peers. I communicated this through emails, meetings, and even casual conversations during school drop off and pickup. And it was not an easy path for me, but there were bumps also, like I mentioned. So, but over the time, I found a very true ally in in his resource teacher who listened and worked with me to find ways to support not only my son's academic growth, but also his social and life skills. When the idea of being a milk mover came up, his teacher and I discussed how to make it successful for him. We created a social story, created a visual, and arranged and discovered accommodations together that helps him to feel supported, confident during this experience. With the supports in place, my son took on the role and he felt very excited, very proud, very motivated, very valued. And I also felt a very positive impact on my own mental health during that process of social inclusion. Later, we were able to reflect on the experiences and think about how to create more opportunities like this one. It was not just about the milk, it was more about my son feeling that he mattered, he valued in the school system, and knowing that he's essential part of the school system also. Next slide, please. So now I share more example. I already shared an example of social inclusion. Let's talk about the actions and steps parents and caregivers can take to foster social inclusion. These actions include some of the following. Share your and your child's hope with the educators. Share your goals, your academic goals, your social goals, and have the conversations very open-ended. Providing a more holistic approach about your child, their strengths, their abilities, their motivations, their interest, like I already mentioned, and the unique gifts they bring to share with each human in the school system. Invite educators, administrators, and support staff to meet and speak with you regularly. I generally meet every month, either virtually or in person, depending on what is mutually convenient, but it also be need-based also. I regularly communicate with his teachers and administrators each week to touch base and gather their observations, their feedbacks, their reflections, and insights. Discuss current opportunities to work on social inclusion based on your child's interests, their motivations, and strengths. For example, at my son's high school currently now, we are working with the school to ensure his love of music is supported and that he is included. We are discussing various ways to involve him in the school music council, music club, and gradually maybe in a school band and concert. Recently, he was included as a volunteer with a buddy at a parent information night just this week, which is very huge step for him and for our family. And we are very, very excited for this new beginning and new role for him. Create an action plan that outlines small and initial steps to work towards a goal you and your child have towards inclusion. Gradually add another step as you go in this journey of including and supporting social inclusion for your child. Ask educators how you can support them in this process and your child in the support process of social inclusion. Share resources with them and make this a positive experience for each partner in the space. When you and entire school team are ready, implement the plan of social inclusion, and monitor the progress. Work together to build consistency and continuity towards achieving those social inclusion goals with our partners you work with. It's a process, it's a journey, and we need to invite others to join us in making social inclusion a true reality in the every part of our life. Always express gratitude that I always try to bring in the spaces as a mom, as a caregiver, while I advocate for social inclusion. Gratitude is magical and acknowledge the contributions of the entire school team in this process who has worked with you and is hoping to support you more and more in the coming years. Can I have the next slide, please? So we talked about different examples and the processes so far, and let's focus on the key foundational values for communication and collaboration in the journey of social inclusion. Mutual respect is a key value that is a foundation for many, many meaningful partnerships we create together, grow together, and thrive in the system. Authenticity, be true, share information based on the facts. Partner wholeheartedly in the process. Honesty and true to yourself is very essential foundation for communication and collaboration. Compassion is a very guiding principle that I think is essential to build true partnerships with our educators, and it goes vice versa. Accessibility of information, ensuring that communication is clear, both written and oral, and understandable and reachable to each partner. The environment should be very sensible, meaningful, and usable for each partner in the space. When we are talking about social inclusion or any other kind of goal, we work with our educators. Transparency, cultural safety, clarity of communication, and also overcoming our own biases. We are all humans, like I always see. We have conscious and unconscious biases in this journey. So, becoming more aware about our biases and identifying them will help us avoid relying on them. Take a pause, focus on the person, not the categories. We're all humans and we are learning together. So, working with mutual respect, like I mentioned, is a very essential pillar, and it's a journey full of curiosity. Exploring those values that we may not have identified in this process is also essential. Can I have the next slide, please? Over to you, Jane.
Thanks, Gunjan. So I'm going to speak a little bit about some things that we can do at home. So that will better prepare our kids and youth to take advantage of the inclusion opportunities when they arise in the school setting. So here's a picture of my daughter, and this was taken during COVID when we would all come together as a family and do big house cleaning efforts because we had a lot of people living in the same house, at school, at work, 24/7. And so here she is vacuuming, but we did make it fun. And she's got a little doll in a baby carrier in front of her. We usually had music playing, that sort of a thing. So something as simple as assigning age-appropriate chores for our children to complete at home and to do their part in helping the family, I think really does set your child up for success in the school community and in the community at large. It creates an expectation that they have a role to play in this community. So in this case, our family, but they have a role to play and they can contribute and add value to the community. Something else that we've always done since my daughter's been very young is had her involved in many extracurricular activities. So again, she's participated in a wide range of activities, a number of sports, and some musical and artistic activities, some friendship groups and social groups, and a whole variety of different things. And this builds skills in our kids. It makes them feel confident in coming into a new situation and meeting new people. It helps them to practice their communication and friendship skills and social skills when they meet the new people. And it gives them confidence to try new things and learn new things. My daughter's participated in skiing and horseback riding, and she has been in a rock band. So things that were definitely outside of her wheelhouse of experience and expertise. But she developed confidence and self-esteem in learning to do new things that she had never done before. So again, you can see how these skills would be transferable in the school setting. And finally, one thing that we are, as my daughter is aging, so she is 19 years old now. And so there is a big emphasis on how will she be meaningfully participating in the community once she is finished with school? What will she do with her time during the days? And how can she be meaningfully involved and active in the community? And we are encouraged to find volunteer roles or potentially even paid employment roles for our kids as they grow up. And one thing that we've had quite a bit of success doing is connecting with a number of these extracurricular programs that she used to be involved in as a participant, and seeing if there's ways that she can remain involved with that program, even though she may have aged out. But as someone who can take on some leadership roles and to help other participants get the most out of that activity. So one example is the summer camp. It's a YMCA camp. It's not a camp for kids with special needs, but she has attended this camp as a camper for a number of years. And for the last 3 years, she is too old to be a camper, but we've worked with the camp staff to find ways that she can continue to attend for 1 week of camp per year. And she is a supported volunteer in the camp environment. She helps younger kids participate in activities. She helps staff taking out and putting away equipment. She's very positive and friendly and social. And so she just adds overall to the camp environment. And that is as a supported volunteer role. So it's a great way to, if you're thinking about as your child ages, where might they volunteer? Where do their interests lie? What opportunities might we find? It's a good idea to loop back to those extracurricular activities that your child enjoyed as a participant to see if those can grow into volunteer roles. Next slide, Carolyn. So, and then this is just some of the sort of tools and specifics in when we're thinking about setting our kids up for success for inclusion in any community, but the one that we have control over, the home community, some specific things that we can do. So we can help to promote choice making, having them speak up to express their preference or ideas, and also developing their social skills and independence. So what that looks like in our home is my daughter participates along with the other members of the family in planning out the dinners for the week, helping to pack her own lunch as she's leaving for school in the morning. We can assign, as I mentioned, age-appropriate household responsibilities. In my household, that looks like setting and clearing the table, loading the dishwasher, and helping out with sort of general tidying and cleaning household responsibilities. Again, you can see how experience with these and familiarity with contributing in this way is going to be helpful for an inclusion role like the one Gunjan spoke about, the milk mover role for her son in his school. It's knowing that there is an expectation that they are contributing. And again, prioritizing participation in extracurricular activities in the community, but also at school. And I know that that can be challenging, and often kids are bused to and from school, and extracurricular activities often take place outside of school hours. Work with the school, ask the school if there is a way to find a way for your child to participate in a particular extracurricular activity. And I just encourage everyone to try to think outside the box, to find ways for your child to be part of the school extracurricular activity scene, but also to seek activities outside in your community. And finally, encourage volunteering and other early work experiences. That was the camp example I gave, and it is actually closely related to the milk mover example that Gunjan gave in the school setting. Volunteer roles, in my experience, do not come with a red carpet and an engraved invitation for your child to participate. It does take a little bit of work on your part as your child's caregiver to find these opportunities and to work with the staff or teachers to enable their participation in a volunteer or early work experience. But again, it's a valuable skill and something that we can do as caregivers to help set our kids up for success. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Great. I think this is my section. So I'm going to try for a little bit of a live demo in a minute, but we wanted to share some resources related to inclusion. So we have a school inclusion hub, which you can link to from Holland Bloor View's main webpage, and this is a QR code. The materials here may be of interest to you as you in setting up for inclusion or in introducing educators in your circle to resources for inclusion. And so that is why we were wanting to share them today. So I'm just going to stop this share to see if we can go there then. Via my. So this is Holland Bloor View's main web page. And we can get to the School Inclusion Hub if we're navigating through the main page in the Advocacy menu tab. And then when you scroll down, it's listed here as School Inclusion Hub. And there's sort of several tiles then down below. We have resources for families in particular in the community inclusion section, and I'll show that in a minute. We have some educator inclusion resources which may be of interest as well. So I wanted to click here to show you some options that you can speak to educators at your child's school about. So we invite educators to join us for an introductory session to some of our materials. We're running sessions virtually for educators a couple times a month. They can register directly from the website. There's a flyer. They can invite colleagues, or you can share the flyer with your child's educators. We're also very open to customizing education for students in schools and or for educators around disability, accessibility, and inclusion. So we invite people to contact us as well directly. And additionally, in particular for today, one thing we wanted to highlight was a couple years ago with some funding from the Ministry of Education, we did develop educator online learning modules that are called Project Inclusion. We were very fortunate. More than 130 people contributed their experiences in the form of video segments to the modules. So there's a lot of excellent storytelling around various topics related to inclusion and participation. The videos were contributed by students, former students, family members, and educators in all sorts of different roles in the system. And so hopefully this will open. You can link here, and it sort of takes us to its own website. Jean or Gunjan, are you seeing the Project Inclusion website now?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted to highlight here that you can scroll down and see there's 5 modules, and you can launch them directly this way. And also from the menu bar at the top, there's English, so available in English and in French. In particular, the record is sort of a kind of a synopsis of the materials in each and contains some references for further reading. I wanted to mention that because there may be people who wish to, from today's presentation, go forward with other resources as well too. So I am going to navigate us back to the main site for a minute so let me close that. When we're back on the main site, I'll just show you as I mentioned, the resources for families are specifically in this section called Community Inclusion Resources. And we have sessions for families as well too, if you'd like to invite someone in your network to join a session like today's. We have them as well a couple times a month. And then in this section here, there's a letter you can download to invite your school to complete disability and inclusion training, either via those e-modules or, as I said, in a custom manner. So encourage you to visit there if you'd like to share these resources. I'll stop sharing for a minute now to be able to, I want to show you one of the videos from the actual modules themselves. So one moment, let me get to that slide. Oh, sorry, I'm not 100% sure that when I reshared, I shared it with sounds. Let me just try that again. Yep, I had. Okay, and back to screen share mode. And Jean or Gunjan, will you please let me know if you hear this okay?
Sure.
As it starts up? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sharon Grant. I'm a parent of a disabled child as well as an educator. Starting off in the early years with extracurriculars, there were a few field trips that he was able to attend. But really beyond that, there really wasn't much, partly because of some of the challenges that he demonstrated in class, as well as some of the challenges of his classmates, because he tended to be in specialized special education programs. So as a result, oftentimes my husband and I were asked to attend on those trips, and that if we weren't able to attend, then he wasn't able to attend on that trip. When our son was able to attend these trips, he learned so much. And we know this because of the joy that he came home with. You know, when we spoke to the staff at the school, again, it was often they just didn't have the human resources to accommodate the needs that our child, as well as some of the other children in his class, had. I believe it starts with your mindset. That when we're looking at children with various disabilities, we see the student first and not their disability. And that disability can be perceived as a deficit. Admittedly, I know my child. I know that it's not easy, but he, as well as any other student, has that right to be able to participate in those extracurricular activities. It starts with having asset-based thinking versus deficit thinking where the child is concerned. Then the next piece would be speaking to the parents. What can we do to accommodate your child? What does your child need? And then working as a team. The teaching staff, the classroom support staff, the school principal, figuring out a way to accommodate this child and thinking that this child has to attend this trip, that there's no option for this child to remain at school for the day or to remain at home for the day.
Sorry, I know that clip ends a little abruptly. Jean and Gunjan, are you seeing again the slides?
I'm seeing the video of.
Okay, let me stop sharing and reshare. I wondered if that would be awkward. Okay, so we should be, yep, back on the resource page.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm just navigating us back if you did want the directions again to the School Inclusion Hub, which is sort of the launch pad for the variety of things. Very much invite you to explore Project Inclusion. There's some really interesting stories there and sort of supportive, I guess, concepts, resources, and very practical tips that surround each video. So many families have told us that they found that really interesting and also that they found it really helpful to share with their schools. And in relation to examples Gunjan and Jean were sharing talking with your school about your inclusion goals as they evolve being able to gather that circle then to work on even one goal at a time in the way that Sharon described as well in the video. I think I forgot in the introduction to say that. So Sharon is both an educator and a parent of a young person with a disability. So I really appreciate her perspectives on inclusion and starting from strengths-based thinking. So that is the resources from the Holland Bloorview website and with Project Inclusion. I've already mentioned the family letter to the school, the link, and we had some other specific resources here around making friends. This one is referenced in the Project Inclusion materials and records, but I particularly like that one. This is our contact information below, projectinclusion@hollandbloorview.ca. And we had a quick slide as well on when there are concerns with school. We really like this visual that Easter Seals created. Talking with your teacher directly, talking with principal and vice principal to find out who is responsible for students with disabilities and accessibility and inclusion within the school or at the board are very good starting points for being able, if